Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is League Unlock. Eric here with Mark, as always, and we got a bit of a juicy topic to kick off today's show because everybody's favorite eSports journalist, Travis Gafford, dropping his spicy news on their show of Hotline League, saying who knows how many, maybe 1, maybe 10 LCS owners are saying to Riot, you know what? You know how we make NA great again? Just get rid of the import rules. We can bring in all 5 imports if we want. This is where we want the LCS to go. Some teams are already looking a little bit like that. But Mark, is this how we save NA? Just get rid of any restrictions on imports?
No. This is not how we do it, my man. Look, you want to talk about how we end up in a world where the Golden Guardians, that's a bad example. They're not going to spend, where a team like TSM or C9 gets to go and win a world championship with nobody from NA on their roster. That ain't the world I want to be in, man.
It's an interesting one because obviously, theoretically, whether it's Koreans, Europeans, Chinese players, if they come in, NA's going to get better as a region. If there's just massive influx of all these players from these better regions, it's going to get better. But if you're a fan of NA, if LMQ 2.0 comes and you're like, North America, whew, and there's not a single player born or representing North America, does it feel as good?
It's way overboard to do a move like that, a situation like that. And look, back in the past, right, when we didn't have these type of regulations and rules on these type of things, no issue, right? It happened. We saw the roster be put together. You had the success that they had. And then, of course, you step in, you put in regulations, so, import rules, things of that nature. And still, you have rosters like a Team Liquid, right, where people are going to go like, haha, domestic talent, sure. But at the end of the day, you're looking at players like Jensen. You looked at, in the past, a player like Impact on that organization, and you were talking about, yes, they spent the amount of time in their region to be considered one of these domestic players, and that's more than okay. Understanding that type of extra value added to a player and what can be, I think that was fine. You're talking about taking away everything and going full on imports for a roster for success. You'll find that success, but eventually you'll drive out any, domestic type of talent, whether from North America or even from Europe at that point. You'd see really just, to my knowledge, a domination of Korea and China coming over, and performance would be there. North America's performance would absolutely be there. But is that North America? Is that North America?
I'm not even sure. And if you want a little bit more on how the LCS is run, watch Steve and Jack on Thorin's show from a couple of months ago, because they kind of talk about this before this was news at all, about importing players and how Korean players now from the LCK, way more likely, if they want a big payday, they're going to go to the LPL. We've seen that. Viper, Tarzan, all these countless guys in the last couple of years coming into this year, you can get a huge payday in the LPL, and that culture shift from Korea to China is much less jarring than living in LA or North America. So
you better believe that the owners, right, the Wang Xions of the world can offer way more cash than the likes of Steve or Jack can even offer.
Yeah, because the Chinese organizations are much more invested in esports than we are here in North America, because a lot of these teams still are in the red. They're not making money, even if they're big organizations.
You're talking about in the LPL, bottom of the standing teams having bigger arenas than the NFL teams in the cities in North America.
So NA, regardless of if there's no import restrictions, they're not going to be matching the cash of the LPL. So really, what I think this would do is just make so many EU players come over to NA, because there's countless rookies not in the LEC that are potentially good enough to play there that come on down to the LCS, we'll take a chance. But if this happens, it's almost contradicting what the LCS instated for 2021, where they said, listen, we're going to invest in the academy scene, we're going to involve the collegiate scene and try and develop players. I can't see them just completely going back on all that and saying, never mind, let's just import.
It's one of those things where, sure, I still wouldn't like it, but I can understand if this was implemented, from the get-go, right? If this was okay, this is how we're going to establish the rules of this region. You're not going to have these type of restrictions put on you, and you're playing under that. Maybe I still would have a lot of issues and not like it, but maybe. But you're talking about this now, right? Trying to pivot to something like this. It's trying to get out of your homework, right? It's trying to get out of actually putting in the effort, the time required in changing this region's fortunes, changing the development of a lot of these players and getting that spotlight back, all these type of things. You're just wanting to abandon it by trying to make this type of change and lift of restrictions. And again, especially as you said, with what has seen, kind of a public outcry and support for this type of path, and the LCS, agreeing really more or less on a fundamental level, and seemingly a lot of the organizations as well taking more proper steps towards developing talent here in domestic. Be a bad move for the LCS, no doubt.
And the biggest thing that people talk about with why NA can't compete is the player base, right? There's not enough of a player base in North America when you're comparing it to China, where they could have multiple servers. Korea obviously is kind of touted as the apex of solo queue. Europe has so many different countries that are all playing on EU West. But just look at the last 2, maybe 3 years for some of these players that have actually been developed and been scouted from either scouting grounds or the amateur scene. Tactical, Vulcan, Blabber, Spica, and Licorice. Those guys are all at the very top of the LCS right now, and they're guys who came through Academy.
And the point is, you don't get these players without the Academy system. You don't get to these points and putting them all through without the type of strides, the type of progress that has been made, the type of focus put towards at least somewhat developing this domestic talent, moving towards the youth. And it's very important to recognize, right, some of those names, people like Licorice, which this is, a 2-3 year project at this point, trying to improve the North American region. Again, to skip out, to bail out on something like just going full on imports all across the board for the top teams. I ain't buying it, my man.
I think people were excited coming into this year because Riot was enforcing, almost putting resources into your Academy team. Again, Steve on Thorne's show, you heard him talking about, I think he said exactly, some collegiate teams in the US are better run than the investment that LCS teams put in their Academy team. It's basically 99% emphasis on the LCS team, and that it's like, oh yeah, we have an Academy team. It's like they don't even interact within one another, it seems like.
I was going to say, then you talk about, right, the idea, right, where we all came from, this hope of the Academy scene and what we're going from. It's from a lot of people watching back Korea in the day and seeing, these brother and sister squads go up against one another, push one another to become better, Samsung white, Samsung blue, all these type of situations where you actually had that, internal organization competition to push one another and become better. Talking about the Academy scene in North America.
The only pushing going on in North America is the LCS team pushing the Academy team down the stairs.
Yeah, you ain't seeing any of that in North America, that type of, commitment, right, to that growth and to the organization. It's not happening exactly the same. Still doesn't mean that strides and steps in the right direction aren't being taken at the very least by at least most of the, I would say, responsible organizations, at least in North America.
Now, the Academy stuff that they implemented this year is obviously contradicting if they got rid of import restrictions in general, but they also included the OPL now not taking up an import slot, so that's maybe something that could be going towards that path. And this isn't a new thing in North America, guys. Remember, 2016, there were so many imports coming in, and even this year, I looked at the rosters, 24 out of the 50 starting players were never took up an import slot. That means more than half of them, sure, there are guys like Jensen who now don't take up an import slot, but at some point, more than half the league in the LCS was considered an import.
Yeah, and it's very, it's very polarizing in the sense of what your decision on this is and what you're trying to get, right, from the NA, League of Legends, and what you're trying to see happen and come through. But when you're talking about what excites you, what are the reasons that you want to be watching the LCS and how they should be investing, Well, at least for me, this year, you're talking about, the young guns on 100 Thieves. You're talking about players like Spica. You're, talking about Tactical. These are the young guns that you want to be talking about and getting excited for in your region, and they are your domestic talent. And again, going off of that, going into something where, a squad like 100 Thieves and all that cash, Nate Shot says, "Hey, bring me the best from Korea, other than Someday, man. We want to bring them some more of the boys." You wouldn't have what happened with this new 100 Thieves roster. Again, I'm not buying it, my man. I am not down with no restrictions.
I just feel like before NA as a whole says the talent's not good enough, the pool's not deep enough, you got to actually try and see how deep that talent pool is, because if you can find more guys like Blabber and Tactical and get them actually getting legitimate starts and stage time on the LCS so that they can develop. You remember Blabber early on? He was insane. He just ran in and died constantly and would get benched for it.
And you're talking, as well, you think about a player like Blabber and the development that he had to go through and the growth that he made right through the academy scene to get to that LCS stage. Think about a scenario, in the LCK LPL. They have all these other, lower level squad and academies and leagues behind just the top tier teams where, look, if you're someone in high school and you're playing pretty well at League of Legends, you're like, maybe I want to take this a little bit more seriously. Well, you're going to get a call from, the T1 Academy team saying, hey, we're looking for young guns to sign up and keep practicing. You're going to play against the very best at your age and even above. All these type of situations to try and keep pushing yourself to become better. Those avenues have not existed in North America. And do you want to make an excuse, about it not existing or, criticize the teams now for it not existing? Okay, whatever. But that doesn't get across the progress and doesn't help us get to that finish line of establishing, right, these type of parameters and responsibility.
100% scouting is still the biggest thing, which is what you're talking about. Scouting these younger upcoming players is the biggest thing that needs to be developed more within the LCS scene. Obviously, don't know how many owners are talking about this. This won't be implemented until at least 2022, if it is implemented at all, which there's still, in my opinion, a good chance that it doesn't happen at all. There were some games today, believe it or not. LCK, we had Hanwha versus Afrika, and it was a fun time on the Rift, I'll be honest. Afrika 3-3 and Hanwha 4-2 coming into this matchup. And game one, you had a little bit of Olaf action, which is, wow, shocking. We got to see Olaf on the Rift, but it was fully in control for Hanwha Life, even though it was a little bit slower. 11-1 kill score was the final. Yeah,
clean looks from Hanwha is what you'll say. I think when you're talking about this series, more or less, and the records for the squads, we were hoping for maybe a little bit more polish from someone like Hanwha Life, that next step forward into that elite territory of the top table in the LCK. Not exactly that level of performance here against the Afrika Freaks. A little bit sloppier than you would like, but still, what can you say, my man? Yes, Olaf was doing the work. Yes, Deft was there to steal a pentakill away from Olaf.
Yep.
And yes, Chovy was again Chovy.
You gotta not let Olaf get a penta so he doesn't get nerfed. Oh wait, he's already getting nerfed, guys. Def trying his best. Shout out to
yeah,
Def.
There it is.
The sloppiness came in game two out of Hanwha, mainly because I don't really understand the Kog'Maw in this draft, Mark. I don't know what he's supposed to do with this team comp. He's just left alone in team fights.
Yeah, it was very strange to not have anything really set up for the Cog or any type of way. We've seen Kog'Maws in the past be major issues.
Where's the Lulu? Where's my Lulu?
You gotta have someone there to help out that little Kog'Maw. Otherwise, he's gonna be the suicide bot a lot of times.
And you also had the Gragas mid out of Fly. I love Fly, man. God bless him. Sometimes he'll just pick some spicy stuff.
You're not gonna see a lot of LCK mid laners busting out the Gragas. Good to see Fly do it, and to some degree of success.
Hey, they got the dub. That's what counts. That's what counts in this one. By the way, Hanwha has settled, it seems, on Arthur and Morgan starting most of these games that we've seen since they've been doing well. And game three, it was finally we got to see some legit Chovy performances. He tried his best in game two on the Twisted Fate. Hard to carry a game on Twisted Fate. This one was done and dusted in a Herald fight pretty early on that ended up getting a quadra for Chovy. And spoilers, Chovy gets a quadra kill that early. It's going to be rough.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad time on the Rift. Absolutely, Chovy picking up that power, showing the skill. Said it, talking about game one. This is not enough from Hanwha Life, and not clean enough of performances to push them really up anything more or what you'd want. But at the same time, have to give them credit. Have to give them credit for keeping pace with what you want to be seeing from them. And then, as you said, settling on Arthur and Morgan as your jungle and top has looked much better from the beginning of the split. Is definitely what you would say about the two of their performances, certainly seeming to settle much more into their roles.
Yeah, I think Arthur in particular is performing better than anyone would have anticipated. Chovy steals the headlines, rightly so. Deft has absolutely been playing a lot better. You saw it even in the Kog'Maw game. It wasn't really his fault again. He couldn't really do much. It was another decent showing out of him.
Champion, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a champion. But now, Arthur's performing pretty damn well. And not just on the Olaf, because it seems like everyone's performing well on Olaf.
Yeah, a little fair just to try and say that just the Olaf, why he's been doing well. Arthur has been doing exactly what has been needed from him in a lot of the games, right? Not being this big focal point, but making sure that players like Chovy get off the ground, get that little bit of extra help. That someone like Chovy, you give him a little bit of help, man, he can take it quite a far away.
Yeah, and now it's 5-2. Our Hanwha Life, they're right behind Damwon. Chovy actually didn't pick up any player of the games today. They both went to Vista, another guy who I think we need to start recognizing is performing one of the better supports in the LCK, top 4 maybe.
And again, are we surprised to say that this has gone alongside Bang? Not Bang, excuse me. Oh my lord, Deft. Oh, getting my veterans mixed up there.
The Hall
of course,
Famers.
Deft performing better. Bang would like to be playing at the level that we're getting from Deft right now, and the Hanwha Life boys. But yeah, it has been certainly something that Deft has performance his individually has stepped up. But yeah, as you said, certainly can't be going by without acknowledging that your boy Vista has been part of that bot lane doing better.
And Hanwha, wasn't the cleanest, but here they are. One game behind Damwon for that top spot in the LCK. Also had a bit of LPL action. Some of the big boys, the hard hitters, FPX versus LNG. This was the test, Mark. Are LNG for real? Can they give it to FPX? Can they go toe-to-toe with them? Yeah, not really. I mean, one of the games, the early game was close. I'll give them that. That's the positive I can give for LNG. But really, this was all about Fun Plus. And my man, Crisp, continues to be disgusting on the Rel. He played it in both games. He just shows up in your mid lane level 3. And you're like, what happened bot lane? How's this guy here?
And I love to see this because outside of just a handful of situations, haven't exactly seen the Rel used the way that I would like to see it be used in pro play to pop off exactly the way it is. And oh man, Crisp is absolutely showing us some early mastery on the Rel, making sure, as you said, just those level 3 engages. Anything after that is a nightmare for the enemy team. We headed into this one, we were looking for that challenge, right? Looking to see if LNG could push up against one of the elite squads in the LPL. Not quite is the answer, at least so far in this series. But the other really important thing to watch that we were talking FPX, LNG, of course, is your boy Bo in the jungle for FPX. Still talking about what he would be able to do. And a tough test on the other side against Tarzan. Bo looked more than okay.
Yeah, Bo looked very comfortable in that one, and he continues to just be ascending into one of the best junglers in the LPL. We got to see Doinb on Renekton in that first game and the second game, actually. Game 2 rolled around. We got Nuggery on the Camille, the flashless Camille, and LNG decided they wanted to bully the hell out of our boy. He started the game 0-3, I think even 0-4. He was getting ganked, and he was just... This game, he was the classic Klay Thompson meme where he's sitting there fouled out with like 5 points. That's what Nuggery was in this game.
It was just Tarzan going to all his boys and goes, hey, I've played against this guy in the LCK before. He's done some dirty things. We got to punish him, my man. Well, they did punish him. Yeah. They just didn't punish FPX, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, they punished him, and then FPX says, great, we'll just grab these 2 turrets. We'll grab this Baron.
Okay.
We'll grab this dragon. Oh, Nuggery's 0
You guys
4.
Oh, you guys are having fun over there? Cool. I'll check you later. We're at your Nexus. Oh, sorry.
So because Nuggery got so focused, he finished the game 1-5-4 in a win, by the way. But you forgot about LWX, and everyone's saying, whatever, this guy can only perform on Kai'Sa. Turns out he can play Samira pretty damn well, too.
Yeah, just thinking he's a Kai'Sa one trick is crazy. Crazy, my man. He is absolutely one of the best Kai'Sas that we have in the LPL. That's for sure. You can give him that type of praise. Saying he's a one trick on that, he is going to blast you, my man. He's going to take you down on the Rift. Easy work for LWX and the rest of FPX.
5 series in a row now for FPX. They've only dropped 2 games all season long. They're playing top eSports this weekend. That should be a fun one on the Rift. We also had IG in action versus OMG. And to talk about Olaf being broken, this is the game I really wanted to highlight. Your boy Jun finishes 14-0-11 in 2 Olaf games. And so Olaf, Mark, 92% presence in Season 11, which is the highest of any champion. He's got 128 wins, 97 losses. So a 57% win rate while also being the highest presence character in the game. Give me the nerfs. Give me the nerfs.
We need more, man. This is he needs extra nerfs based on the time that we were seeing, Olaf's with Sonas and Sorakas out on the Rift and making sure he's staying alive in all these fights. The Yumi's making sure he's getting those healings. We need to
Seraphine. Let's just make new champions that help Olaf.
Enough is enough. All right, man. We got to put Olaf in the bin for at least a couple of patches. Let's get this boy knocked down. No more Broloff. No more. He's going to take a nap.
So Jun looked great across these 2 games. OMG is winless. You expect IG to completely pump them. And they did completely pump them in these games. The biggest news, if you're looking on the IG side of things, Rookie was Rookie for the most part. The Shy had some questionable moments, as is tradition in 2021. But Lucas gets subbed in for Baolon, who's had some rough series. And we've seen this substitute happen multiple times over the last 2 years. And it always ends up in turning back to Baolon being the starter. Lucas was okay in this series, better than Baolon has been, but it's against OMG.
Yeah, that's the crazy story that is Balan and his time with IG and what goes on from being, at times playing to being one of the key members.
I'm convinced he'll be here longer than the Shy or Rookie.
Yeah, he is the LPL. He is IG in its essence, man. It's crazy, right? Lucas stepped in. Type of performance really
it's a
is how you
passing
look at
grade,
it. And to be honest, passing grade for an IG player against his team like OMG is not going to do it. That's not really enough for me at this point. But you said Baolon has not really been providing enough high level of play to keep hold of his spot. So unfortunately, support seems to be still a question mark for IG.
And there's a lot of other question marks you could talk about with them as well. We'll see if they can get answered Sunday, IG versus RNG. That's a beautiful matchup. And as I mentioned before, FPX TES on Saturday. LPL does it again. Makes a wonderful weekend of matches. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. As always, thanks for hanging. And we will catch you guys and gals on the Flippity Flip.